Did you know that we can instantly make our children's book more valuable and more fun by simply adding a fun activity toward the end of our children's book? These activities can come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and that's what this video is all about. Hi there, I'm Eevi, an award-winning children's author and ghostwriter over on eevijones.com and the creator of Children's Book University. I create videos specifically for children's authors, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my weekly videos. In this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 main reasons why we should consider adding some fun extras to our beautiful children's book. Fun and creative ideas for each of these 3 reasons to get your own creative juices flowing. The 3 main ways we can share our fun extras with our readers. The number 1 easy peasy tool we can use to create our own fun extras, and the 4 ninja tips we will want to make sure we follow for ethical reasons and for reasons to protect ourselves and to make sure we keep our sanity. So let's jump right in. I was really excited about making this video because it gives me an opportunity to share some of the amazing work of fellow children's authors, be it my readers, my clients, or my Children's Book University students. So when I say fun activities, what do I mean by that? Well, these fun extras, as I call them, are usually shared toward the end of the book and can come in all sorts of shapes and sizes and can be as easy or as complex as you want them to be. Some simple examples here are printouts, activity sheets, coloring pages, and even lesson plans. But before I share some really creative examples, let's look at the 3 main reasons why we as children's authors would want to provide additional materials to our readers. 1. Providing additional fun extras can make our story even more fun and perhaps even more interactive for little ones, especially if they involve our book's characters. 2. Providing additional materials can be extremely helpful to parents, caregivers, and perhaps even teachers who can use these materials to help little readers deepen the understanding of the topic of our book. 3. Providing additional materials will enable us authors to collect people's emails so that we can reach out directly if we should publish another book later on, because being able to reach out to people directly is such a big advantage. So let's look at some fun examples for each of these. 1 was creating fun extras specifically for our little readers. You may have come across some of these already because more and more children's books include fun extras, usually toward the end of the children's book. What I love about these additional extras is that they help us make our story more interactive. Wonderful examples here would be coloring pages of our book's characters and even videos. This beautiful example right here is from one of my clients. Nicole McDonald set up a beautiful website and created a downloadable coloring page for each of her adorable books. And for her Dash's Christmas book, Nicole even created a printable cookie recipe. And that's especially fun because her story talks about how Dash is making these Christmas cookies. These were 2 adorable downloadable examples where in the book the reader is prompted to visit our website in order to download these extras. So let's look at some examples that we could present and include directly in our children's book. This example right here is from Mike McCallowis's book, My Money Bunnies, that I created with him. This book introduces kids to a fun and creative money saving system where jars that look like bunnies are used to save their allowance. So we thought it might be fun to help kids create their own bunny jars by providing them with instructions on how to do so, along with ears, labels, bunny tails, and the face of the bunny. So the left here shows what this looks like directly in the back of the book with the instructions and where kids can cut out these parts directly. And then on the right, I have created a printable sheet that holds both the instructions as well as the cutouts that can be downloaded on Mike's website. So if you have any crafts or craft ideas that appear in your book, this is such a fun and creative way to make your book even more fun and interactive. Another great example that we can add directly in the book are sheets that our little readers can fill out, maps that may be part of our story, or a list of words that are being used throughout our story. This beautiful example right here is from my reader Paola and her book, The ABCs of Amsterdam. In the very end, she has added a colorful map of the city along with a list of Dutch words that were used in her story, including the English translation as well as the pronunciation. Paola's book was already special, but adding these pages made it even more valuable and unique. One of my videos I created a while back for you was on book trailers and what they are and how they can help with the marketing of our book and how to create one. So I will make sure to add the link to that video in the description below. So if you have a book trailer, then sharing this in your book would definitely count as a fun extra. And you could share it either by simply adding a link or by adding a screenshot along with the link. Now, one video example that I wanted to share here is the video that I created that was meant to go along with something I was sharing in one of my earlier books I wrote many years ago. And in that book, I rewrote the words of traditional nursery rhymes to help kids memorize things they would need to memorize, like their phone number, their address, the emergency phone number, things like that. And so for a few select songs, I created a video that would share that song. Now, I did so for two main reasons. One, I wanted to be able to offer that as an additional fun extra at the end of the book. And two, I wanted to also use it over on YouTube to get new people over there interested in my book. So with these videos, I essentially tackled two different sides. The sides where I was able to offer a fun extra to those that had already purchased my book, and the side where I would get others that didn't know about my book yet interested in it. And so to this date, this particular video on how to memorize our address has over 31,000 views. So if a video like this would be something fun to create for your book, then this might be a great addition as well. I made that video myself, but commissioned a voice talent to sing that song for me. And if you need any help on how to find and hire freelancers such as a voice talent, make sure to watch my video on how to do so safely. I'll go ahead and add the link to my video about freelancer sites in the description below. So our examples for fun extras here were coloring pages, recipes, craft pages, maps, lists of words used throughout our story, and videos and songs. There are so many more examples like printable mazes we can create with our book's characters, or printable word searches for words that we have been using in our story. The sky here is our limit, truly. So reason one for providing additional materials in our book was to provide fun extras for kids, right? Now let's look at the second reason I mentioned, which was to provide additional materials as learning resources. Most of the fun extras examples I just shared with you were mostly for our little readers, something they could use or do to be even more immersed in our book's topic. But when thinking about extras we can add to our book, we can also add resources that grown-ups such as parents, other caregivers, and even teachers can use. And these resources would essentially be materials that would help them with the teaching or sharing of our book. So a great example would be from the book Germs vs. Soap by my reader Didi Dragon. On her website, Didi is offering fun sheets to help kids retain the information they have just learned, charts and how-to sheets, and fact sheets to support her book Germs vs. Soap. Another really great, powerful example is from the book My Super Me I have written with Wall Street Journal bestselling author Todd Herman. To help parents with the content of his children's book, he has created a supplementary video with questions they can ask their children at bedtime every night. And he has created a private Facebook group that we can gain access to. Now, when coming up with ideas for our own book, it's important to realize that some things might only work for certain books or certain authors, right? For example, offering access to a free Facebook group might not be that appealing to most parents, right? But here, this works for Todd because he already has a large following through his coaching businesses he has created. So getting direct access to him through such a Facebook group can be very appealing to many of his followers that also purchase his children's book. Another amazing resource example is from my Children's Book University student Heidi Carlson, an incredibly talented singer and songwriter. Heidi's books share beautiful life lessons about things like life's ups and downs, about being ourselves, and about confidence. And so these topics lend themselves to being shared and talked about directly in class. And so Heidi created entire downloadable class packs all about and around her books that include the book itself, a lyric video, a song, her book's audiobook version, a video with a recorded lesson, PDF lessons, and so much more. Some of Heidi's things are free, like her beautiful songs on her YouTube channel, and others are downloadable packages that can be purchased. I really love how creative Heidi got with her resources that she has created specifically for her beautiful children's books and that she is providing on her website. One of them being a fun downloadable pirate joke generator that is included in one of her free class packs. So truly, the sky's our limit here. Now we've looked at adding additional materials for the entertainment of our little readers and as a resource for grown-ups. The third and final reason I mentioned as a reason to add additional materials to our books was to be able to collect people's emails. So in a sense, this third reason is mainly for us authors. Now you might be wondering why we as authors might be interested in collecting people's emails. Now whether or not you end up doing so is of course entirely up to you. But the thought behind collecting people's emails is this. Unless someone purchases our book from us directly, we usually don't know who our buyers are, right? Because marketplaces such as Amazon don't provide us with this information when using KDP. Amazon won't share with us authors who it was that purchased our books. So by providing an incentive for readers to download our extras, we have the opportunity to connect with these buyers directly. And this might be especially helpful if we are planning to write more than one book, because if we have our readers' emails, we can let those people know whenever we have a new book. And that's something we couldn't do if we don't have their email. Those readers that have provided us with their email already know us and they already know our work, which they hopefully loved. So having a direct way to them will make it so much easier to make actual fans out of our readers that would love to hear about and read our upcoming books as well. Now, in the examples I've already shared with you, you may have seen that some of them are readily downloadable, and while others, we have to first enter our email address in order to be able to download the resources. But let's look at two examples to show you what that would look like. The first one is from my oldest son and his printables we have created for his 2 spooky books. These are 2 workbooks he has created over 2 consecutive summers as his fun little summer project. And so we thought it would be fun to create spooky downloads with different activities on them. And in order to download them, readers would have first to enter their email address. In my author website studio, where I show you how to create your own free website, this also includes an option that would allow us to collect our readers or visitors' email addresses in order to access our book's additional materials. So if you don't have a website yet, I've added the link to my author website studio to the description below. So let's look at one more email collecting example to show how we could let the reader know about our freebies in our book that we are offering over on our website. This example right here is from my client Molly Mahoney's website for her book Finding My Awesome. And by providing our email, we would get access to her book's video, an audio version, action sheets, and other fun printables. And to get people to visit Molly's website, we included this page right here at the very end of Molly's book. These pages or these phrases right here are called a call to action or a CTA because they are meant to get the reader to do something or to take a certain action. Here our CTA was this right here. Want video, audio, action sheets, and more to help you find your awesome and share it with the world? Go to followed by the URL. We added a cute little illustration to it and made sure the URL really stuck out from the rest of the page, so it's really easy to spot and hard to miss. So the best place to add these CTAs is at the very back of the book. But again, whether or not you require people to enter their email to access your extras is entirely up to you. So we can provide our readers with these fun extras using 3 ways, right? Directly in our book as an image and as a cutout, on our website without requiring an email, and on our website with an opt-in where the reader has to provide their email. Now you've seen all these beautiful examples, and most of these were created fairly easily, especially the downloadable printouts and worksheets. So if you have never created anything like this before, but would like to give it a try, the absolute best and easiest tool for this is Canva. Simply go to canva.com, log into your account, or if you don't have one yet, set one up for absolutely free. Go to Create a Design up here, click on Custom Size, make sure inches is selected here, and then enter 8.5 for your width and 11 for your height, and click on Create a New Design. The reason I love Canva is because it has so many templates. So if you click on templates over here on the left and then enter words like activity, sheets, or more specific terms like maze or word search, you will see some amazing templates come up. You can then use those to customize them by adding your own artwork or your own colors, for example, and then simply share it and download it as a printable PDF. Note here that Canva changes its interface quite often, so if yours looks a little different, don't worry. The interface is very intuitive, so just have an open mind, be adventurous, and simply start clicking around to find your way around. There really isn't anything we could break here. Now, before you start creating your own fun resources, here are 4 ninja tips we need to be aware of and that we should consider. 1. When creating worksheets or printouts, whether they are directly in our book or a downloadable PDF, we will want to make sure we are including our copyright information. This is important because oftentimes people, especially schools, like to make copies of such printouts. And as soon as they distribute them, others won't know where this printout originally came from. So we will always want to make sure to add our book title, our name with the copyright symbol, the year, and perhaps even our website to every sheet. And something I always like to include as well when the page is directly printed in the book is a dotted cutting line with a little scissors icon, because it lets people know where to cut and it makes it look more professional as well. 2, if you should decide to collect emails, don't sell or trade the email addresses you receive. Honor the people that put their trust in you by providing you with their emails. I see this all the time, and I personally don't think it's okay to swap our collected email lists with other authors. I'm sure you've seen this before as well, where you signed up for someone's freebie and all of a sudden you receive emails from other people in that same industry whom you have never heard of before. And that's because your email has been shared or traded by that first person. Unfortunately, this happens quite a bit within the publishing world, which is why I never participate in any summits or other author panels, because I'm not willing to share my readers' or students' emails. 3, if you collect people's emails, don't spam them. Don't bombard their inbox with your emails, and instead be sensible when it comes to emailing those people. And 4, if you have already published your book or you feel this is just too much to think or worry about right now as you are writing your book, then know that none of this is a must-have. It is a nice to have. And something to remember here is that we can always add something like this later. We can always either go back into our book and add a call to action and a website later, or if you have a website already, even better, then simply add that to your book when you are publishing it, and then that way you can add downloads to your website anytime without having to make any changes to your book. And again, if you would like to know how to set up a free website quickly and easily, then be sure to also check out my author website studio in the description below. Adding these creative extras can be so much fun for everyone involved. For our little readers that get access to some fun extra activities, for grown-ups because they can use our extras as lesson plans or as supportive resources, and for us authors, because these extras provide us with an opportunity to potentially collect other people's emails. I hope you found this video really helpful. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't yet. It really encourages me to keep making free videos for you just like this one. Here's to the creation of your very own fun extras for your beautiful children's book. Bye! Now, before you start reading your own fun resources, here are 4 ninja tips. 4.